more love, more joy, everything.
It's inspired young people.
Inspiration comes from within you. When you clear out the garbage that's in your mind, you then create space for something better, more beautiful to come in.
Let's have life and have it more abundantly.
I say yes.
It's like taking a workshop. I get to be in my pajamas.
We have a very active imagination, which is why it's important to learn how to harness it and then point it in the direction you want to go.
I listen to your show every day.
It's time now for Living Your Inspired Life with Susan Burrell. Susan is no-nonsense, inspirational, motivational, and fun.
This is positive talk radio.
Practical wisdom for everyday life.
It's a gift you give yourself.
Now, here's Susan.
And welcome to Living Your Inspired Life. You're listening to News Talk 1590 KVTA. And before we dive into this juicy conversation, I just want to remind everybody to go to livingyourinspiredlife.org so you can tune in and tune up and hear all the amazing conversations we've been having. Living Your Inspired Life is all about conscious connection, collaboration, cooperation, and developing community. So if you go to this website, livingyourinspiredlife.org, you like what you're hearing, shoot me an email and let us know. And our team will continue to develop the great talks and programming and events that we're doing. So it's livingyourinspiredlife.org. And today I have the pleasure, well, I guess I'll have to see if it's a pleasure by the end, because what we're talking about today is divorce. So I have attorney Anthony Diaz joining me today. Thanks, Anthony, so much for coming on the air with me.
It's great to be here, Susan. Thank you so much for having me.
So I want to tell everybody just a brief pop about you. So, okay, and then I'm going to talk about you like you're not really here, Anthony. So he's known as the Peacemaker. And Anthony's a divorce attorney and a mediator, and you also have a spiritual practice that you do that actually informs your entire practice, your entire life, which I just love. And one of the gifts that you bring to the world, Anthony, is he's written some e-books that I received. He sent to me. One is called Divorce with Dignity. I don't know about that. We'll have to talk about that. Moving Consciously Through Conflict, and Enjoy Your Relationships. So I'm grateful that you're doing this work out in the world, and it seems like you're walking in a world of paradox, Anthony, to be a divorce lawyer and then moving consciously through conflict. How does that work?
Well, there's a lot of oxymorons there.
Yeah.
But it really is, it's a conscious choice. And it's a choice that I made some years ago after going through my divorce, that my purpose, my meaning, my mission, if you would say it, is to help people to avoid a lot of the pain and craziness and chaos that can happen in a divorce. You've gone through it. I've gone through it. More than half of the country has gone through it or is going through it. So my deal is that I get to work with people going through that to help them to have a better experience.
Well, I want to read a quote from your ebook, Divorce with Dignity, because this kind of summed it up for me, having experienced divorce after 28 years of marriage. And in that book, you said, divorce, in a sense, is a breaking of that vow and everything that it stood for, a dream of a happy life together and growing together through good times and bad. This broken vow brings the realization that it won't be fulfilled in this current relationship. Divorce is a loss of the dreams and possibilities we have looked for with a particular person to satisfy our needs. And I'm telling you, that it was a field of broken dreams for me. When when the realization that the entire relationship was complete. That's what it felt like for both of us. It's like we just kind of eventually came to it at different times, but eventually we looked at each other and went, oh, it's just done. There's nothing more to learn from each other. There's nothing more evidently to give to each other. So now I guess we go get divorced. And does that happen I mean, is that how it happens for most people, or is it usually? I mean, when we entered into the divorce process, we weren't embittered or angry at that point. It was just like a recognition. Okay, we're done here.
Yeah, that's a really healthy way to experience the ending of that union. And I will tell you that it does happen. I do a lot of mediation, and people come to me and say, "Hey, listen, Anthony, we're done here, and we want this to be as easy and amicable as possible. Can you help us?" And that really, makes my job a lot easier. But I have to tell you, Susan, a lot of people's experiences are not that way. And I would say probably most experiences or most divorce experiences, if you were to poll everyone, is that it was a very painful, contentious situation, and there was a lot of inner pain going on and a lot of pain between the couples, because on some level one person was complete but the other one wasn't.
Okay, I'm just raising my hand here. I do that often, Anthony. I'm raising my hand because so I'm just going to share about me. Holy moly. The completion was a mutual, wow, okay, we're done. But then the process of divorce, and I can't speak for my ex, but I would imagine he had similar experiences. But for me, it was like crawling on my belly through glass for 2.5 years. And I had not anticipated that. We had left the marriage at the filing of divorce, agreeable and wanting to remain friends. And currently, that's not happening, after a year later, after the divorce was complete, it's just not there. And what I found for me is that whole thing in that quote I read of a dream and a happy life together. All these things came up, all these emotions for me that I chose to work through, because I chose to go through the divorce consciously. Like you said earlier, it's a conscious choice. And that's what I chose to do instead of, I didn't want to come out the other end of divorce embittered like so many people are, where they can't wait to tell anybody about their divorce.
Absolutely. And, you bring up a great point about you going through the process. And I write in my Divorce with Dignity ebook that there's a grieving process that goes on. And it's like a death. It's a death of a relationship. And it's just as powerful and real and raw as the death of a person. And a lot of people don't realize that. And you made the choice to process those feelings and to, wherever they go, whatever they are, you're going to go along with it. And that's what I talk about is as humans, we don't want to be in pain. I mean, who wants to be in pain? Who wants to be hurt? Who wants to experience those feelings? But feelings have a longevity, and whether you stuff them, whether you ignore them, whether you don't believe they exist, they have a lifespan. And if you don't allow them to go through whatever lifespan it has, it will pick up somewhere down the road at the most inopportune time and kind of hit you upside the head.
Yeah.
So, and again, I can't speak for your ex, but if people aren't allowing those feelings to take their normal course, they're going to experience not only more pain, but it's going to take a lot longer to get to a better place.
Yeah, I from having had this experience now, I totally agree with you. And I used to joke with people, it is like a death, except I have a warm body still. There's the person over there isn't in the ground. They still are a warm body walking around. And, that was like, and that was, that, is hard. At least if some, and please, everybody that's listening, but if somebody passes away, you're dealing with them on a whole different level There's no chance you're going to run into them randomly at a restaurant or the supermarket or on the street and get all that pain re-triggered. So so doing conscious healing while you're in the process of divorce, at least from my personal experience, I think is healthy, and it's harder than anything to do.
Well, it is because you've got so many things going on at the same time. Like I said, it's an end of a dream, of an expectation, the death of that relationship that you were very intimate with someone. That's a very personal, marriage doesn't get any more intimate. You can't have a more intimate situation of that. And then sometimes it ends abruptly, and that person is, like you said, is still physically there and may be creeping in and out of your life or whatnot. So it really it challenges us to really go within and really see what our intention is. How do we want this situation to go on? How do we want to be in that situation? And that's where having a spiritual practice definitely helps to keep you on the tracks and not keep getting derailed.
Yeah. And okay, so we're going to dive into this with a little bit more on your Divorce with Dignity ebook because I personally had and will still have, but at the time I entered into divorce, I had a very strong spiritual practice that I did daily, hourly sometimes, and very committed to it. But here's the thing is when I went into the divorce process and I was interacting with lawyers, not my lawyer as much as the other person's lawyer, and all the games that happen in that kind of a situation, I was astounded at the level of humanity I was witnessing and having to interface with and interact with. And it kept knocking me off my center until really, truly, Anthony, my spiritual practice diminished so much because, again, I was, like I said, crawling on my belly through glass because of the process and the way the divorce game is played, because it is a big honking game. That's what I think.
Well, it's when the divorce process starts in the legal system, that's a whole different process than the emotional process that somebody goes through. But a lot of it depends on the attorney you have, the attorney your spouse has, and I got to tell you, in law school they don't train you to be compassionate and loving and to listen and to be empathetic. It's just not in the curriculum, and that's unfortunate. So, attorneys are trained to go to court and do best for their clients, and irrespective of the other person. And that's why I changed my law practice. Has been changed upside down. That the only cases that I handle are people that are looking for a peaceful resolution of their case, even or whether or not their spouse or spouse's attorney is interested in that. I have a partnership with my client, and between the both of us, we'll have the right intention and keep it on track for us. But I hear you when you say you get knocked off track because the divorce process is it's not set up to where everybody comes together and sings Kumbaya. It's a very adversarial process. And you add emotion to that, I mean, it's just adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah, it is. It's igniting and then reigniting and the experience that I had is which I would imagine my ex-husband would say the same thing. We are still reflections of each other type of thing. There's always that mirror, whatever relationship you're in. But, in my experience, the lawyer on the other side was spinning stories, right, of what could happen, what was going to happen, and not anything based in reality in terms of who I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you following what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I want to share a brief history about divorce. Divorce in our legal system didn't become part of the legal system until we embraced the English law, and they always had divorce in the courts. But beforehand, in our society, and this is going back hundreds and hundreds of years, the churches used to handle divorces and marital issues, and that's where people went, and they got resolved. And if they had to split the marriage, they figured out how to do that. But it wasn't in front of a judge. And courts are made for to resolve money issues and damages and contracts and things that you can put a dollar amount on. Divorce is mostly not that. It's not really appropriate for the legal system. But we bought into it as a society. But the reality is it's more emotion than anything else, and the court system just isn't equipped for that. But we can, as a society, make that choice and say, I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to handle this in a way that keeps my integrity and my personal intentions intact. And, that's how I'm going to handle my case.
Okay, so what do you mean by that? Are you talking about instead of going through the court system, you go through a mediator? Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's one way to do it. The spouses can agree to not go to court. They can say, hey, listen, I may not like you, and I may not love you anymore, but I'm not going to do that process for a number of reasons. Whether it's, I don't want to spend all of our marital estate on attorneys. I don't want to spend a lot of time. I don't want to affect the children. I want this to be quick. So they can decide to do that either with a mediator or what's a very popular way for people to divorce without going to court that I'm heavily involved in is to use the collaborative divorce process. And that's when each spouse has their own attorney, and they also have some other professional neutrals that support the team, and they, over a number of meetings, gather to discuss what the couple's options are, and the couple with the team decide on how to settle their case. And that case never goes to court.
Okay, I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm having a little reaction over here, Anthony, because I have, now, oh my goodness, I was one of those people, and my ex would probably attest to this. We both thought, wow, 28 years, we've gotten through it, right? We're good to go for the rest of our lives, right? We're not going to be that statistic. And now I've met so many women and some men that have gone through divorce, but to hear people's stories about how they, especially the women, so many women, in order to get out from the marriage, whether they were the one making all the money or the man was making all the money, they had to leave a lot of money on the table, especially if they went to mediation. There was money left on the table. Talk about that.
Sure. Well, in any negotiation in which mediation is, and sometimes a collaborative divorce, when people talk about money left on the table, what that means for me is that they could have gotten a lot more in court, maybe. And the reality is that's possible, but when you go to court, you're leaving the decision about everything about the divorce up to a judge. And the judge may give you everything you want or may give you nothing that you want. So
It's a crapshoot.
It is, but we have a decision that we can make that we can say, you know what? It's not that important to me. I'm not going to just leave here with nothing, but I want to end this in a peaceful, intentional way, and I want to be able to make the decision on what's right for me. And whether I can get more than that in court or not, that may be, but I don't want to go down that road. I want to be empowered to have a choice in this decision, and whether it could have turned out differently in court, I want to feel better about this. So when you go to mediation and when you settle it collaboratively, absolutely, the outcome could have been different in court, and absolutely, you may have gotten a more of a financial outcome, but you would have had to spend a lot more money to get there, which you may not have gotten recouped. There's a lot more time and energy expended into what is not a real positive experience, and then you may not get what you were looking for, and you may get less, and then how are you going to feel? So I think you say it's a crapshoot, and it kind of is, but it really is a conscious choice that whether I could get X amount more, or maybe I could get less, I want it to stop here, and I want to end it the way that makes me feel better.
So when you're in a collaborative divorce process, like you're describing, where both parties have their lawyers, and then there's the mediator, you, right? Then do those lawyers come to the table with the idea that we're not going to be adversarial, we're going to collaborate for the highest good of these two individuals?
Well,
I know it's not in the lawyer mindset.
Well, it's a two-part question you asked. Both spouses have their own attorneys that are collaboratively trained, and that means they are trained that although they handle other cases or have handled other cases that what we call litigation cases, you have to have a different mindset. And your mindset is to allow your client to make an informed decision about how they want to resolve their divorce. Now, you're there advising them. You're their advisor, and this is where counselor at law really comes in, because you're going to explain what the law is and what you're entitled to, and help them to navigate through that. But there's also a mental health neutral that is also on this team. And one of the main roles of that person is to keep everybody in check, because it still is it's an emotional experience, and our emotions are on different levels, and they make sure that the attorneys stay collaborative if they're getting a little bit uncollaborative, and to help support the clients and helping them make a decision. But, attorneys are trained to go to court. So this mindset is only come about in the last 20 or 25 years. And, attorneys are still evolving. I'm still learning how to be more understanding and to listen more and to be help look for the greater good of the couple. And that's really the ultimate outcome for a collaborative case, is for the collective good of that couple. And you know what, Susan? That's really the collective good of society, because if you can have these folks go out and have a positive divorce experience, they're going to reverberate that through the universe, and they're going to create positive experiences for everyone.
Yeah. So the thing for me too, Anthony, is that like when you're talking about creating positive experience for everyone, is that my son, who's 21 now, had a really rough time with our divorce. And so going through it intentionally and consciously with the intention to come out the other side in a positive manner, I hear what you're saying, that it helps all the people that are affected by the couple splitting, right?
Right. Yeah. And with the collaborative divorce process, this counselor or mental health neutral helps when there are children involved, and they will meet with both of the parents and individually on how are we going to co-parent here for the betterment of your child or children. How can we set an example for them so that they're not torpedoed in the middle of this and feel like they're responsible or they have to take sides? So the parents are given tools and ways to be able to co-parent more effectively and more lovingly, even though it's from different households.
Wow, because that's awesome. Because one of the things my lawyer said, my son was 18 when we filed, and my lawyer said it's a good thing because you won't have to deal with child custody. And then there was one day I had to sit in the courtroom with my lawyer waiting for my turn, and I was watching child custody battles unfold right in front of my eyes. With, small children like babies or 5-year-olds, and the way the parents were at each other. And I turned to my lawyer. I said, "Oh my God, you're so right. I am hugely grateful that we didn't have to put our son through any of that."
Yes, yeah, and that's I'm continually amazed by what I take from this, Susan, is that the parents, really must be in a whoop of pain to be able or to not be conscious of the pain that they're really inflicting on their children. Because I'm sure they're not doing it intentionally. I don't think any parent would do that. But to be so caught up in their own pain and the pain of their loss that they're just not conscious and not able to comprehend. Can you imagine what an 8 or 10-year-old must be feeling going through that? As adults, we have tools and we've gone through life and we're able to handle a lot of things. But an 8 or 10-year-old, hasn't acquired that capacity yet. So it's really more of a lack of being conscious, and there are a lot of people who do that.
Well, let's dive into your book, Divorce with Dignity, because you've got a couple of suggestions, a few, on how to move through divorce consciously and begin the healing process while you're going through divorce. So, and you have something called NOW, which I really like. So let's talk about that.
Sure.
So NOW is the acronym for Nourish, Own It, and Willingness. So let's talk about nourishment first. Okay. So what's nourishment?
Well,
it's not sitting in front of the TV watching reruns, eating bags of potato chips like I did, right?
Well, that's one type of nourishment. I wouldn't recommend that for everyone, but it's certainly a byproduct of people that are going through a divorce because it's an escape. Let's just go and focus in on something else and nourish ourselves with comfort food because we're really in a lot of pain. So I invite people to create a different nourishing environment for them that's more self-care, and it's really taking care of yourself. It's when you're in the divorce process, you're getting pulled in so many different ways. You're getting pulled maybe by your family, by your attorney, maybe by your soon-to-be ex-spouse, maybe your job because you're taking time off, maybe by your friends because some of them are taking sides and some of them are not, and you're like, okay, enough already. And what we do is we look to escape in some non-healthy ways instead of taking a step back and say, okay, I'm going to put a pause button on here, and I'm going to build some practices into my life it's me time. It's time for me to spend time nourishing myself so I can get through this on the other side. And one of these is to create or recreate a daily meditation practice.
So Anthony, let me just if you would allow me, let me just rewind a bit on that, because I want to focus, I want to ramp up to meditation. But for me, and I had, like I said, I had a strong meditation practice in it, and what happened is the process of divorce became so grueling and contentious that these emotions that evidently I had been hiding during my 28-year relationship surfaced, and so all the emotions that kept coming up were the harder things for me to manage, and the meditation was to drop into a stillness, or even a quieting of the mind. I mean, the monkey mind was rampant with all the stories, all the untold stories, all the feelings of rejection, abandonment, shame. Why did I stay so long? Guilt. Why did I put my family through this? All those emotions for me had to be dealt with on a moment by moment basis. It was like a purging of my entire life in so many ways, emotionally, that I didn't even realize was going to happen. I thought, I just didn't realize it. So you beautifully described the life of somebody going through a divorce, and their mind takes over. And the mind is the most powerful, and it's not classified as an organ, but it's the most powerful part of ourselves, because that's where things are created. So when we spend a lot of time there, which is natural, because you're replaying situations, you're going through decisions, and why did I do this, and should I do that? There's a lot of second guessing. But the cool thing about meditation is, those things can go through your mind, but when you're in a quiet space, you just let those things come and go. They need an outlet, just like everything else that goes on, every other feeling that we're having. And by just kind of observing them and not really acting upon them, by saying, well, that's an interesting thought, or I didn't see that coming. But it's more from looking outside in instead of really getting involved in that monkey mind discussion. That's a really good place to for people to allow themselves to get into that meditation practice. And I think meditation, you always are grappling with that monkey mind, but it's setting that time, like 6 o'clock every morning or 6:30 every morning. This is my time, and even if I do nothing else but let my monkey mind have to do its thing, and I just observe it, that is so cleansing. And after a while, the monkey mind is already it's done. It's expressed itself. You haven't paid attention to it, and you've observed it. It's got no charge, and it goes away. Yeah. It's interesting because of my choice to consciously clarify and purify myself as I was going through divorce. Then the times where there was stillness, I guess what happened for me is it was the first time I'd been alone. My son was at college. I'm alone in the house. And so I had time to just sit with Susan. Who is Susan now? And what did I want to take with me into my new life? And what did I really need to release and let go of? And a lot of it was a lot of those stories, or even the old memories that were beautiful. I kind of created like a mental memory box, that I put all the beautiful memories in, because they're, when you spend X and so time with a particular person, you've got the good stuff as well as the not so good. And I would mentally just, when I would come up against a beautiful memory, instead of feeling sorry for myself because I wouldn't get to have another memory like that again with that person, I just put it mentally into that memory box in my mind, knowing that I could go visit that any time.
Well, that's a beautiful way of honoring those memories, of not being upset about them because they came and they went, but it's keeping them in a sacred space that you can access at any time. When I work with people, I do something like that, and we use a computer as a metaphor, and to be able to keep these memories in a easily accessible file.
Mm-hmm.
You can access those documents at any time. It's almost like a desktop shortcut. You can click on it, and they come to you easily. And that's a beautiful description of being able to compartmentalize those memories that you want to retain, and you want to be able to enjoy and feel good about them.
Yeah, and I again, like with all my new friends, divorced friends, there were so many women that just wanted to run the negative story, and as soon as you would say, yeah, I'm going through a divorce, it's the same thing for, I know there's women out there that are pregnant, when you're pregnant, and then every woman wants to come up and tell you the bad story about their pregnancy. Same thing with the divorce. It's like people would go, oh, I know, let me tell you mine. And I was like, whoa, wait, just because that was your experience, it does not have to be my experience. I don't have to have a horrible, ugly outcome from this. I can have a good outcome from this experience.
Absolutely.
But, too, Anthony, the other thing is I want people to get that meditation is such a great place to center yourself continually and to get your answers, because all our answers reside within us all the time. But one of the things that I did for myself, Anthony, and you talk a little bit about it in terms of journaling your feelings or your pain out. But what I also did is I allowed myself to have my cry or my scream or my yell. I mean, my poor neighbors, I don't know what they thought. There was some crazy lady locked in a house for months. But because I had never allowed myself those feelings fully, and I had to feel that it seems to me that I had to feel those feelings fully, the rage or the feeling of sorrow or abandonment fully, so that I could then step back and go, wow, okay, I'm done with that. That I don't need to feel that anymore. That is in relationship to a past experience that I no longer am in, and I don't need to carry that forward into my new life.
Absolutely. And journaling to me is the written expression of feelings.
Yeah.
It's something that it actually goes from a feeling state through your mind into your hand and on paper, and it really is a completion when you can do that, because you're just unfiltered, just writing and not judging what comes out, and then you have it in front of you, and it's a great source to go back to, months, weeks, years later, and you can really see what you were feeling and what you were going through at that point in time, and it helps you to see where you were and where you are now. But it's the main thing is really being able to let those feelings express themselves and to be complete. A lot of times feelings just need to be expressed. They're not right or wrong.
Right.
But if you don't express them either verbally or writing, it's going to come out in another way. And journaling is really an extraordinary way to allow yourself to be in full expression and not to be judged or not to be looked at in a certain way.
Well, and here's the other thing about journaling that I'm hearing as you're saying this, Anthony, is, and it harms none, right? I mean, I've had people tell me, oh yeah, well, I ran into my ex, as we're going through divorce on the street, and she lit into me, so then I told her blah, blah, and then you're having a public fight. And the journaling I even wrote letters, the blame game letters of you did this to me, and then I had another time where I wrote a letter of, oh my God, I forgive you and I'm so grateful for kind of letters, things I would never send, but at least it wasn't verbally done. Do you know what I mean? In
Right.
real time, where it was going to continue to ignite, it was going to continue to put a flame on that,
Right. Well, if you, instead of journaling, if you actually confronted that other person, not only are they giving you negative energy, you're giving them negative energy, and that's not going to help at all. I mean, how are you going to feel after that? You probably don't feel a lot better because you might have expressed yourself, but then they wound up dissing you. So, I love how you talked about, instead of doing that, writing it in a letter to somebody and, let's say, not sending it to them. So you get to express yourself. You don't have to do it to them directly where it might be hurtful, but you express it however you want. And I've actually had people do a burning bowl ceremony.
Oh, wow.
Where they would write the letter, read it, and then burn it. And you just have this ritual of releasing it out into the ethers. And it not only is it expressed, it's released.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I got chills as you're saying that. That's like a great experiential to do, because then you really are releasing it and you don't have to hang on to it.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit more about Divorce with Dignity, because the second piece of now, besides nourishment, which is self-care, meditating and journaling and things like that, you talk about owning it. Now, this is hard for people to own their stuff. What I did that, how I participated in the ending of a marriage, right?
Yes. No,
Because it's always the other person that did it. I didn't do anything, right?
Exactly. No, it's to me, it's one of the most crucial turning points of being able to move through divorce. And the first part is, if you can nourish yourself and really get yourself a good practice and take care of yourself, now you're ready to really start to look at your stuff. And whether we like to hear it or not, that is really the place where it starts and ends, is to be able to look at whatever happened in the marriage and to say, you know what, I own it. This is what I did. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean you have to have shame or you're blaming yourself, but you're really being able to look at it through the lens of somebody who wants to move on and doesn't want to be stuck on where they are. So it's taking personal responsibility for your share of what happened in the marriage, or maybe what didn't happen.
My ex-husband and I used to always say, it takes two. It takes two to have a fight. It takes two to have a relationship. And I still believe that that's so. There is not one person that's created the situation that makes it no longer viable. It takes two.
It really does. And even if you're the only one that's looking at it, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because all we're responsible for is, it's for our part. And by being able to look at situations, you can look at it and say, wow, I can't believe I did that, or wow, did that really come out of my mouth?
Right.
And this is part of the cleansing, to be able to release these, and really the best way for you to release that experience in a loving way is to be able to take stock of who you were in the marriage, and this will help you in the future. Again, if you want to enter into another relationship or get married again, you're not going to be taking these unresolved experiences with you. You're going to be able to look at them, take ownership of them, and spend some time to figure out what you could do differently in the next relationship so you won't have the same experience.
Yeah, I have a quote from your book, Divorce with Dignity, and you said, by taking responsibility for your decisions and choices and the role you played in your marriage, you can be grateful for those experiences and the lessons you learned from them. This insight will allow you to forgive yourself and your partner as well. And
Absolutely.
I personally have found that is true. I have in different levels in different ways during the course of the divorce process and a year later gone to those places of forgiveness and gratitude that, man, if you told me this in the middle of it when I thought I was dying, there was no way. But taking the responsibility helps.
Absolutely. And forgiveness is really a key part. And I wanted to share a really short story. And to me, the act of forgiveness was the turning point in forgiving my ex-spouse, and it was an unbelievable way it happened, and especially because of this week with the passing of Wayne Dyer, because it involved Wayne Dyer. I went to a conference of his, and I've always wanted to see him. He's been somebody I've admired and followed my whole life, and I was finally able to see him. And he was talking about the Tao, and that's where he was starting to understand the principles and incorporate in his life. And all of a sudden, he started talking about forgiveness. And it was like, when it's like you and the other person are the only people in the room, it was like he was speaking directly to me.
Oh, wow. I got chills.
And it was, I was in this zone, and all I heard was forgiving yourself and forgiving your spouse is all there is to do. And the conference ended, and I was just in this unbelievable place of gratitude for hearing that and understanding it. And I turn around, and I didn't know this, but my ex-spouse was there at this conference, and she knew that I was going to be there. And she just came up to me and hugged me and walked away.
Oh, my God, Anthony.
It was the most incredibly cleansing and unbelievable experience I had, and that was our forgiveness moment. We didn't say a word, but we both heard what we wanted to hear, and we both had the closure that we needed to have, and that really allowed me to be able to continue to healthily move on. But forgiving yourself as well as forgiving the other person, to me, is the most powerful emotion and experiences that you can have.
Well, it's definitely the key to moving forward into your new life, because you don't want to bring that garbage into your new life, whatever it is.
Right. And in order to not to do that, exploring what happened in the marriage, and forgiving yourself, saying, you know what, that was on me. That was something I did, but I'm not going to beat myself up. It's done. I'm not happy about it, and I'm not proud of it, but I'm owning it, and now I need to understand why that happened, and that will help to cleanse that experience and to release that into the universe so that it's not holding you back in your next relationship.
Yeah, which is important. I'm in a new relationship, Yahoo, and I'm beginning to, and I can see where the old reactions were starting to kind of get seeded into this new relationship, and I had to sit myself down and have a talking to with myself, because I did not want the stuff that I had participated in my previous relationship to be part of this new one. I really wanted to come clean into a new relationship and learn new things, not take the old garbage and keep repeating it.
Yeah, and what's really great about that experience is, there was a carryover from your marriage that didn't get resolved, but you were aware of it, and you were able to see it and say, okay, I need to take a look at this, and that's really important, because we're as much work as we could do on our previous relationship. That doesn't mean that something isn't going to creep in or crop up that comes from that relationship. But the more aware that you can be when those situations come up, it will help you to notice them and take some action before they really, have a negative effect on your new relationship.
Well, and that's the part of walking consciously through divorce for me, is that I really wanted to learn all that I was supposed to learn about myself and that past relationship. And I really wanted to come out of it more connected to me, to Susan, to who I am. And I can say now that I love myself more than I ever have in my entire life. And the new relationship then comes from who I am now, not who I was 28 years ago, not who I was 3 years ago, but who I am now. And that's where I want to be, is in the now.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a perfect example of living your life in the present.
Yeah.
Living your life exactly where you are, knowing who you are, and that's who you bring into the relationship. That's how you step into the relationship without anything that's gone on in the past. And the goal and the game plan is that your partner is doing the same thing.
Yeah. Exactly. So the last piece of Divorce with Dignity and the now thing is willingness. And I wrote down willingness to be willing. And you said...
Willing to be willing, yeah.
Yeah. And you said by your being willing to be willing, you can turn one step into a journey that can transform your life. And I believe that. When you are willing to simply allow yourself to be in a better place, yes, people, a better place, even for only just a brief moment, it's all that is needed to guide you away from the pain that's holding you back toward a life that you could only dream about. And I'm telling anybody that's listening, currently going through divorce, I'm raising my hand here in the studio, that that you cannot imagine what you can't imagine until you are willing to move forward and transform. And that was my experience. And having moved through the transformation project of my life of divorce, I now have a better life than I could ever have imagined. And who knew? Who knew? I didn't know.
Yeah, it's amazing because, when you talk about divorce, I mean, just, you could just see people's eyes roll back in their head, because it's sometimes a long and painful experience. And so I like to kind of break it down into little chunks. And it's just this willingness to do something. And it kind of just opens the door a little crack. And when you can see, like, oh, okay, well, I'm willing to do that, it's this little bit of momentum that starts you in the forward direction. You don't need a huge shift at once. It's not going to usually happen at once.
Right.
And when people expect it, they get disappointed, and then they feel like they're not making any progress.
Right.
But just be willing to be willing, and that's just to look at what's working in your life, and just one little bit at a time. It's something that you build upon, and then after time you can look back and say, wow, this wasn't easy, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be, because I just did it one step at a time.
Yeah. And Anthony, you say in this section, our willingness to choose the life we were meant to live begins by allowing that which doesn't serve the vision to fall away. And I love that you say that, because that's part of the excavation of divorce, is what doesn't serve me anymore, right?
Absolutely. It's being able to start, because now that you're willing, you're in a place to really look at the life that we were meant to be put on this earth, to be enjoyed, to be happy, to have fulfilling relationships, to be abundant and prosperous. But you need to be able to clear the clouds away, and just having that willingness starts the process of whatever doesn't serve that vision or purpose that you were meant to live starts to fall away, slowly but surely.
Anthony Diaz, our time together is coming to an end. I can definitely now feel why you are known as the peacemaker. And tell everybody your website so people can find your ebooks, Divorce with Dignity, Moving Consciously Through Conflict, and enjoy your relationships.
Sure. If they go to AnthonyJDiaz.com, AnthonyJDiaz.com, they can sign up and they can get any one of my ebooks. They can also email me at Anthony@AnthonyJDiaz.com, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions they have.
Anthony, thanks so much for joining me today. And I'm just going to end with, and so it is, namaste.